Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to another all-new episode of the PR from the Heart Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. To be precise, we have reached episode number 13. That is the 13th trolley stop of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. My name is John Masiulionis, the manager here at PR from the Heart, joined as always each and every month. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely on the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Over the course of this past year, I should say, you've known him by his real-life name. That is David Newell, my co-host here on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. David, happy close of March to you, almost April. We are set for a two-book bookcast, and I know that we're literally just mere hours away from the start of International Children's Book Day, and most importantly, spring has finally sprung. Are you excited that spring is finally here?
Spring has sprung in Pennsylvania, but we had a little bit of snow yesterday.
Oh.
But today the sun is shining, and I'm looking forward to a wonderful spring. There's nothing like a Western Pennsylvania spring. It is beautiful here in the spring and summer. We have some harsh winters, but we make up for it in the spring. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, in terms of the beautiful scenery, it's interesting that you mentioned the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area as part of this month's episode of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, a two-book bookcast. The trolley is going to be racking up some mileage, but staying in some beautiful areas that are pretty close to where you are located. Right off the bat, for those of you, our fellow neighbors who are joining us for the first time here on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, David and I take the time to deliver the newest heartfelt reviews from the newest children's books from the shining stars in the kidlit community right here at PR from the Heart. And we are proud here at PR from the Heart and the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast to pledge our support to Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. They are the Pittsburgh chapter of the largest national non-for-profit children's literacy organization in the United States, and they provide children's books, developmental resources, tools for children that come from low-income families in Pittsburgh. And did you know that last year alone, Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh gave over 80,000 children's books to over 23,000 children in need? There's such a pillar in the Pittsburgh community. They provide so many resources of care for children, parents, and families, again, that come from low-income neighborhoods. And it's just so important to be able to do what we can. So we do what we can here at PR from the Heart to be able to pledge our support each and every month, making a charitable contribution to this wonderful organization. We encourage you, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars. If you feel guided to do the same, as we like to say, no donation is too large, no donation is too small. You can pledge your support for Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh and the wonderful and much needed work that they're doing for children, parents, and families, again, that come from low-income neighborhoods in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. You can head on over to rifpittsburgh.org/donate. We've included the link below in the description so that you can simply pledge your support however you feel guided to do so. Well, once again, David, we're going to be talking about Pittsburgh a couple of times over the course of this episode and leading into episode number 14 of the bookcast, but the trolley has already started off. The trolley's been very patient here today. So of course we start as always. We go from San Diego, California, all the way to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we head out over to Western Massachusetts, near the Springfield, Massachusetts area to be precise. And we're super excited because one of the newest neighbors at PR from the Heart, Jim Price, has actually released his brand new children's book series, The Adventures of Herald from the Hood, and book 2 is the newest installment in his series, Friends Like Different Things. And I really love the two characters, Herald the snail and Benny the beetle. They're good friends, and they really help all of us to remember and learn so many different things, especially how the hurdles that we face in life can help us to grow stronger. So again, the trolley goes from San Diego to Pittsburgh to Springfield, Massachusetts. David, I'm super excited to be able to talk about Friends Like Different Things, the next installment in the Adventures of Herald from the Hood.
Yeah, well, this this bookcast, the theme seems to be friends. And well, we'll start out with Jim's book. I'm using some notes here. I have to make notes as I go along reading the book. So I refer to my notes because I can't keep the whole plot in my head.
Absolutely.
But I enjoyed this book. It's not a long book. Adventures of Herald from the Hood. And I imagine on the cover it says Series 2. There must have been a Series 1 that Jim has written. But
we have this right here. In fact, Book 1, for all of our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, Book 1 is available, The Adventures of Herald from the Hood, A Trip to the Park. So we have this to be able to complement what you see right here, Friends Like Different Things.
Okay, so I thought so. So Series 2, this is Series 2 that we're talking about today. And in Jim's introduction to the book, he mentions that the purpose of the book, and I've written this down, is to build social skills. And even though people may like different things, that dynamic is what makes everyone unique and special. And it's okay for people to like different things, and we can learn from each other. So I remember growing up, and I like to swim, but my friends didn't really like to swim. So on some days I would go with my parents to the community swimming pool, and I would swim, and I'd make some friends there. And eventually my friends would come to the pool with me, and they liked it, but I had some pool friends and then some school friends, I guess you could call it that.
I love that.
But in a way, that's what Jim is saying in his book, that you have, you like to do different things, and it's okay to go off by yourself or with other friends to do something. And, I call it alike and different in a way where a lot of us are alike in our interest, but we're different too. So that's okay to like things and maybe not like some things. So that's what I call it, alike and different. Well, as you said earlier, Jim introduces the reader to Harold the Snail and Benny the Beetle. Wouldn't you say it's probably a preschool or early elementary book? I would say that.
Absolutely.
And Harold and Benny like to do things together, like games, but they also like to do different things. And sometimes it's okay to do your own thing. That's established throughout the book. For instance, Harold likes to play on a swing set, while Benny likes to sing. Harold the Snail likes to eat onion rings, and Benny likes to paint pictures of his dog. And throughout the book, Jim repeats the following words before each new like is introduced. It's okay for friends to like different things because that's what makes having friends such a great thing. And there you go, different and the same. You have friends that like what you like, and then you have other friends who like what you like, and they're all different and the same, but they're all your friends, if I'm making sense. And that's what it is to me, anyhow. Well, Harold likes to roller skate and likes to holler, and Benny likes to read books like a college scholar. And that's written in rhyme. And then there's a repeat of it's okay to like different things, and then they go on to another. Harold likes to go to movies. Oh, and this rang a bell for me because when I was a kid, I loved going to the movies, and some of my friends would have rather not gone to the movies, so I would go by myself with my parents or some other friends to the movies. And in this case, Harold likes the movies, and Benny likes to sit at home and eat a can of baked beans. So I guess I would rather sit in the movie and eat a box of popcorn, but Benny likes to sit at home and eat a can of beans, but different and the same. And then the repeat again, if it's okay for friends to like different things. He establishes that throughout after each little new like is introduced, then he reminds the reader that it's okay for friends to like different things, which is wonderful. Then Harold likes climbing up the apple tree, and Benny likes to look through his telescope. Now, these are all illustrated. And again, who did the illustrations in the book?
I do believe that Jim had a wonderful team to be able to assist him actually put together the illustrations. But he didn't do the illustrations by himself.
Okay. Well, now on this one, Harold likes eating delicious red apples, and Benny likes eating pancakes made by his uncle. Well, and I love how Jim plays with words, apple and snapple, and children like to hear words that rhyme, and they sort of like that sort of nonsense playing with words too. And I was reading the book. As I was reading the book, I bet my preschool grandson would enjoy having it read to him, and I'm gonna try it, just get his reaction from the words, and I have a test person I can test some of these books on, so I'm going to read this one to him. Well, as I said, it's a short book, and Jim ends the book by reminding his reading audience that it's okay to like different things, because that's what makes having fun such a great thing. And one of the last pictures in the book shows Harold and Benny standing in front of the swing set, and on the swing there are all the things that they like. Apples, and the swing is there, and books and paintings. And such a wonderful lesson for children to be able to have friends that might not like everything you like to do. And Harold and Benny are good friends, but sometimes they do different things. And then the next day do something together. You know, and it widens a child's social circle. And as you can tell, it's not a long book, but just long enough to make the point of what I call different and the same. Some friends like the same things, and that friend may like different things. So I think it's a wonderful to be able to widen your social circle with friends who like different things. It's a wonderful little message, and in a very short period of time. It doesn't, but it gives the reader, the parent, and the teacher, or who's ever reading the book to the child, a chance to discuss different things, and I think that's good. So you can like some things your friend likes, but also go on your own to explore and meet more friends. Mm-hmm. And that's how the book ends. And that is Harold from the Hood. It's a very short book, and I guess that was a speedy review, right?
That was a speedy.
But did it make sense to you?
Yes, and a couple of things to be able to add on to what you had shared is that the book cover and the character designs were put together by Sherry Carandine. So in terms of Jim having a wonderful team, Sherry's leading the charge with the book cover and with the character design. So she did such a wonderful job with that. I love how both of the characters in the process in the book, as you can tell, David, they wear two T-shirts. So you have Harold the Snail wearing a T-shirt that says love and peace. And then you have Benny the Beetle that wears a shirt called Fun Time. So in terms of important messages to be able to share with little ones, obviously love and peace are two of the top things that we all strive for each and every day in life. And it's so important for kids to remember to have fun at the same time. And I actually feel that when there's parents or adults that are reading this book, you know, as adults, David, we can take life way too seriously. We have the to-do lists like, take out the garbage, or, walk the dog, or go to the dentist's office, right? Like, we've got all these tasks that are on our to-do list. And I feel that Benny is reminding us as big kids to be able to give out and to carve out that time during the day, during the week, to have fun. And I think it's important. I also love the importance of really the message of embracing who you are, because it's very, as little ones being very impressionable, they can see their friend liking something that's completely different from them and wonder maybe, well, will my friend accept me because I like something different than what they do, right? As I know that growing up, many of us, we still want to fit in. And a lot of the times we'll just kind of do something that someone else is doing just to fit in. But I really like the different sorts of things about, both characters in the story, how, as you mentioned, Harold likes eating delicious red apples, while Benny likes eating pancakes made by his favorite uncle named Snapple. So it's just a reminder that, again, as you had beautifully described, you don't necessarily have to enjoy the same things all the time. There's times where that's great and it's fun and it's fantastic, but it's so important to be able to embrace your own individuality. And I really love that, you can really feel that Jim incorporates his own soul signature into this book, because I know that, how many children's books do you have that talk about baked beans, right?
Not too many.
So you can tell that Jim is really putting his energetic imprint on this story. And I figured that maybe one of your favorite pages in the book was, while Benny likes to read books like a college scholar, there's a picture of a public library. And that's, of course, one of the many places, one of the pillars of the community that we always advocate for here on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast.
That's right. But again, as I mentioned earlier, one of my favorites was they liked was it Benny or Herald? I can't remember which one. Would like to go to the movies, and I can identify with that, because when I was young, I loved going to movies, and in my time, the popular comedy team was Abbott and Costello, and I loved them.
Yeah.
And my other friends liked Western movies, and I liked the comedies better. And I remember we had in our neighborhood at that point a neighborhood theater that our parents would let us go to the matinees, and I would go off when Abbott and Costello was showing, and my friends would do something else. But then together we would go to a movie we both liked. So it's very interesting. But that page really rang a bell for me, the movie page, because I remember distinctly my friends not liking quite the same movies I did, but we were still friends, and then we would do something together that we all liked. So I like that point that Jim makes in the book. It's and you can pause too as you're reading it, and to a child or to a class, and just have some discussion too. There's points to do that. And it doesn't have to be read through at one sitting or one straight through. It could take a half hour to read the book, maybe. I mean, I'm being over, that's not that long to read the book, but you know what I'm saying. There's some quality time with a child with reading a book.
And also Herald is actually the one who likes going to the movies and watching them on the big screen. But also one last thing to be able to add is that, I don't have the blessing of being a father just yet. I feel that'll happen at some particular point on my path. But if I'm, looking at this book through the lens of an adult, a big kid, and just like yourself, David, and you see Harold likes going to the movies to watch the big screen, you can just put the book down momentarily, and it brings back that childhood memory.
Oh, it does. It does. Yes. I felt that all the way through it. But that page really brought it back for me.
It did.
Going to the movies, yes. And I hope the other people who read this book have the same reaction. Maybe another parent will have a reaction to eating baked beans. Who knows?
Yes. It's actually interesting, because I know that growing up, I think that my favorite baked beans, I actually enjoyed Bush's baked beans. So those
I've never heard of those.
It's been a brand that's been around for a long period of time. But there's one last thing just to touch upon on the back cover of the book, and I really love how one of the main themes in the book, one of the illustrations that really resonates throughout the entire story, you have the sun that's holding up the rainbow. And Jim reminds us that we can embrace challenges in life to show yourself that you can overcome, you can grow, and you can succeed with anything you can ever imagine. And he has the word "can" in capital letters. So there's many times that we, or even little ones, when I say we, I mean adults, big kids, we're so programmed to telling ourselves that we can't do something, that we're too short to do this, or we're not as educated to do this, or we don't have the business skills, so we can't run a successful business, right? But when you say the word "can," little ones need to hear that. You know, just as Mr. Rogers, just as Fred would always tell in episodes of The Neighborhood, you remember this, David, that you're loved and you're special just the way that you are. In his own way, Jim has that imprint of Fred in his work where he's reminding children, you can do this, you can overcome, you can grow, you can succeed with anything that you can ever imagine. So letting little ones know that really anything is possible. And yeah, I think that that's a message that us as adults need to hear, especially as we're beginning to create our post-pandemic lives and, you know, enjoy this beautiful year that lies ahead. So, and of course, as I had mentioned beforehand, the first installment in the Adventures of Herald from the Hood is also now available, A Trip to the Park. So you can enjoy both A Trip to the Park and Friends Like These. You can head on over to your favorite local library or your favorite independent or children's bookstore. And of course, you can purchase or check out your copies of both of these books. If Jim's books, The Adventures of the Herald from the Hood series, are not located in your favorite library or independent or children's bookstore, let the bookseller or the librarian in the children's department recommend that they stock Jim's books, The Adventures of Herald from the Hood. Of course, you can head on over to Amazon.com. If that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can leave 5-star reviews for both Friends Like These and A Trip to the Park if you feel guided to do so in the process. So, David, that was the first book. And of course, we want to thank Jim and his entire team for allowing us to be able to share Friends Like These. Friends Like Different Things, I should say, on episode number 13 of the Bookcast. And so the Bookcast, we go, David, the trolley, I should say, goes from San Diego, Pittsburgh, to Western Massachusetts, and to the beautiful state of Vermont. And I believe that your longtime friend on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Officer Francois Clemens, that is where he resides, is the wonderful state of Vermont, which is known for delicious maple syrup.
Oh, and Francois Clemens.
And Francois Clemens, yes.
Well, yes, I guess I think Francois lives in, is it Burlington? I'm not quite sure. It's near where the college is. That he was a professor of music at one of the colleges there, and he still resides. It's a beautiful state. But this next one is by Nicole Latimer.
That is correct. Need a Friend, Learning to Sign with Rennon is our second and final book on the March 2022 episode of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, illustrated by Vaji Golmazari. Vaji, we hope we're pronouncing your name correctly in the process. And David, one of the things is that with April just literally now upon us, for many of our listeners and viewers and friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars who are watching this episode of the Bookcast, it already may be the beginning of April, but it is World Autism Month. And this is one of the main themes in the book, is we are introduced to Nicole's real life son, Rennon, who has autism on his end of things. So this is a story that's really near and dear to her heart. And I'm so grateful because she actually has 5 children, including Rennon, and she's sharing her little one's courageous journey and story. And whenever someone has autism or something along the lines of that on the spectrum, David, it's not always an easy go for those little ones. And a lot of the times they can be, looked at the wrong way, misinterpreted. And so Nicole is helping all of us to be able to connect with Rennon and learn to understand him. And most importantly, learn how he is communicating with us. So for all parents out there who are maybe struggling, if their little one has autism, or if you're just wanting to learn a little bit more about autism and seeing the world through the lens of a little one who has autism, this is such a wonderful book. So yes, I'm super excited to be able to dive into the pages of Need a Friend.
Yes. And well, as you said, it's the story of Nicole's son, Rennon. And as she writes in her dedication to the book, he has taught her everything she knows. And I think she's put those lessons down into the book called Need a Friend. Well, Rennon is in kindergarten and he's 6 years old, and I suppose that's what he is in real life. He's probably around that age. And the reader meets Rennon on the first page. And in the way, the book breaks the fourth wall because Rennon is talking to the reader of sorts. And he said, what's your name? And maybe the child would respond, is being read to, and want to be my friend? And that's how it begins. Then Rennon explains that he is nonverbal and asks the reader if they know any sign language. And maybe they say, no, I don't, or whatever the response would be. Well, I'll show you. And then we find out that, as you said earlier, Rennon has autism. It's ASD is what Nicole explains in the book, autism spectrum disorder. And now that may be a little difficult for some younger children to understand, but I think that at that point, the parent could explain.
Exactly.
In the best way, depending on the age of the child. They would have to stop and explain ASD in some way. But it may be simply explained by Rennon saying that some people think I'm different, but he explains that he is just like you. I jump, run, laugh, and cry, and I cry when my feelings are hurt. And Rennon explains that he might not show his feelings like someone else. And in that way, Nicole is explaining ASD because Rennon has a hard time explaining himself. But he says his favorite emotion is happy. And there's an illustration of Rennon smiling and being happy. And then on the next page, we see him sitting on a sofa with his beanie bears. They make him happy. He loves collecting them. He loves setting them up in a row. And you see an illustration of the sofa, and there's all the beanie bears, and they make Rennon happy. And then he asks the reader, what makes you happy? And the reader could respond. If I were reading the book to a child, it would be a point to stop and ask the child, well, what makes you happy? What makes you happy? Do you like to do what Rennon does, or what makes you happy? And that could be a dialogue between the parent or the teacher at that point in the book. And then Rennon says, well, that's great, because the child has just told Rennon in a way what makes them happy. And then Rennon responds, that's great. Next, he says he likes the emotion of being surprised. And the illustrations show Rennon saying this in sign language. There's little pieces of, I don't know sign language, and I imagine it's all correct, of the way he's signing. The next page shows the surprise he likes. And how many times have I done this with my children? When his daddy and he are playing and his daddy says, "Row," pretending to be a scary animal. That is such a classic pretending with a child. And then Rennon asks the reader, what surprises you? And here's another chance for the reader to respond, or the adult reading the book to ask the same question of the child. The next is sadness, and there's an illustration of Rennon crying, and he's sitting on the sofa, and beside him, I believe has a toy stuffed animal, a rabbit, and there's some tears coming out of the rabbit's eyes, which I thought was is very, very subtle, which I noticed. And Rennon also says he gets sad watching the sad part of a movie. And then he asked, after this, he said, what makes you sad? As I was reading through the book, I thought that these pauses would be a wonderful way to find out what a child may be thinking too. The book is sort of a way to find out what a child may be thinking. In other words, it could be a little, what was I thinking? It's almost a self-help book, book for preschoolers. The adult reading the book to the child might get some insights into the child's inner emotions that otherwise might not be expressed, by stopping and finding out, well, what makes you sad, what makes you happy, etc. The parent reading the book may get some insights that you wouldn't otherwise get, and it takes this book to get those. It might not happen, but it's a possibility. Oh, and then Rennon asks the reader if they've ever been angry. He gets angry sometimes when he doesn't get what he wants, and his mother tells him, "Not today." Well, that's not just Rennon. That happens to a lot of children. Mm-hmm. He gets angry and sad, and again he asks the question to the reader, "What makes you mad?" Rennon then offers some advice. Just taking a deep breath can help calm you down. And that's good advice, just a simple. And again, I can see myself reading this book to a child and stop and go through these exercises. Oh, then he demonstrates a deep breath through our noses and blow it out through our mouth. That could help calm you down, and that's very good advice. If Need a Friend is really an interactive book. I think it combines an introduction to reading, but then also, as I said before, a self-help book for the preschooler. Of course, there has to be an adult to lead the child through the book and helping with each exercise, but I think that's doable. And in a way, the book would be better with one-on-one in this case. I could see it in a classroom, but I think the one-on, it's perfect for one-on-one, an adult reading it to a child. And well, it's again a short book, and as the book ends, Rennon has shown 4 emotions that he feels every day. He can't voice his feelings, but if I could, I would talk to my mommy, daddy, grandparents, and friends. Mm-hmm. Then he says, "Do you have someone to talk to?" And again, there's the audience reaction. And then supposedly they do. That's wonderful. And then Rennon signs, "That's wonderful." And the illustrations on the page show sign language for each of the 4 emotions.
Correct.
And on the last page, Nicole has Rennon remind the reader that when you are angry, take a deep breath, happy, smile, sad, find someone to talk to, surprise, laugh. And I like the last line. And when you need a friend, I am here. In other words, you could pick up the book again and read it through again. And it just may remind you of the wise words that Rennon has said. And as you said earlier, on the cover, well, the back cover says that the book is a great learning experience for anyone who is seeking how to better understand how to communicate with kids like Rennon, with some being on some point of the spectrum of autism. I think it's a lovely book with a wonderful message, a very simple message, and some simple exercises for a child to do. And I think it could be read almost every night for a while. Our children would want to hear a book maybe 3 nights in a row and then drop it for a while and on to something else. But this book is, I think, very helpful, especially if you, helpful in 2 ways. Helpful if you have a child who's on the autism spectrum. I think that's helpful. But it also helps children understand, in a way, autism. It's not easy to explain, but I think it's done very well in the book. I think that Nicole does a good job of breaking it down for a young reader.
She did a fantastic job with this, David, and I feel that the book serves so many different purposes, but two specifically come to mind is that children, as they're becoming of age, when they're introduced to they're identifying their emotions and their feelings, this book can help little ones with that, while also being able to see yourself through the lens of a little one that is on the autism spectrum disorder, and to be able to have more compassion and more understanding and more empathy, because we live in unfortunately, we still live in a more or less a judgmental society. And if we see a child or an adult who's in a wheelchair, we may use the term they're disabled, right? Mm-hmm. Not knowing that maybe that they have skills and gifts and talents that we don't have. If we see someone who has anxiety or depression, we may give them a label of some kind, and not knowing that maybe that they're just moving through some sort of deep healing. So I really feel that this book also helps for both children and adults to build your compassion, your empathy, and your understanding for those who are different from yourself. And I just really love the message as well too, because there's times in our day where we feel, as I like to say, there's times where we feel that we're lost or scared or alone. And Rennon's here just saying, I'm your friend. And there's days where you just need to know that you have a friend. And when you know that at least you have one friend, you're like, okay, I'm not alone. There's people that are out there that care about me in the process. And also another thing to be able to add is that some of the best children's books, many of which that we've talked about over the past year plus in the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, have been inspired as the result of real people, or moms or dads' real situations, whether it be with Jim's work in the educational system, being a counselor on his end of things, or with Nicole being Rennon's actual mother, being a mother of 5 living in Vermont. So it's so important. I think that what I'm trying to communicate is that, for someone who's interested in writing a children's book, or maybe who's had that story in their heart for a long period of time, just to write from their real life experience, and just to be able to allow their emotions and feelings to be expressed, and you'll just see the wonderful magic that actually comes about. So, and the illustrations were great. It teaches sign language. So there's so many, not only heartfelt messages, but there's different ways in which that you can learn so many different things. Throughout these children's books that we've been sharing on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, David, there's so much to learn. So as you even said, you can take the time and read the book for 3 straight days. But all of the books that we've shared through the first 13 episodes of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, you can always go back to them, and you can learn something new that maybe you didn't learn beforehand. So we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow Shining Stars, you can pledge your support for Nicole and for the wonderful work that she's doing for children, parents, families, and educators. You can head on over to your local library, your favorite independent or children's bookstore, and to check out or purchase your copy of Need a Friend: Learning to Sign with Rennon. If it is not available in your local library or your favorite independent or children's bookstore, let the children's librarian, let the bookseller know that would be a great idea to stock Need a Friend: Learning to Sign with Rennon. You can, of course, head on over to Amazon.com. You can even head on over to BarnesandNoble.com. David, I know that that's where you actually got your copy of Need a Friend: Learning to Sign with Rennon. So there's different ways where you can be able to pledge your support. You can leave a 5-star review for Nicole as well if you feel guided to do so, if you really enjoyed Need a Friend: Learning to Sign with Rennon. And David, I think, as we begin to wind down our time here on episode number 13 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, one of the great ways that you can support children's authors and illustrators such as Jim and such as Nicole is to simply tell a friend, tell a fellow parent, tell a fellow educator about these sorts of books. Because, even though we've got, so many different sorts of social media platforms and electronic devices, the best way that you can share a heartfelt message is to be able to pass it along to someone that could really benefit from it, someone in need.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the books that we've used before and talked about on the Bookcast, I've given to my grandson. Now, he's only a little past 2 years old, but when I go over there, he brings out the book that I brought him from Bookcast. He remembers the specific book I brought him. And in a way, that's how you can start with books. A 2-year-old can be read to. Their attention span is not the greatest at that point. They may need a picture book. But just handing them a book, as I did, he identifies that book with me in a way. And I think that's just another way that books can be helpful. It brings us together. Books can bring you together, reading to a child.
They most certainly can.
I've always thought that you can sit down, and I think I've mentioned this before, and read a child the telephone book. I'm being extreme, but the point being, it's the closeness of that, what that love, the bonding that a book can do between a parent and a child or a caregiver is just so rich. And that's another way books can be used. Not just turn the video on at night, but sit down with your child. And getting a book from a library, it costs nothing. I mean, anybody can sit down with a book with a child, but I think the importance is the connection a book makes with a child.
There's no better exchange for taking the time, even if you don't have a little one and you want to nurture the inner child within you, to take the time, read a book, give yourself that 15 minutes a day, 10 minutes. It can be even more than that. Or of course, if you have a little one, if you're a mom or a dad, you're a godmother, godfather, you're a grandmother, you're a grandfather, there's no better exchange than that quality bonding time that you can have with a little one in your life. Now, of course, when we hear the trolley, we know that means that it is time to go. So this has been such a wonderful episode, a wonderful trolley stop, episode number 13 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. If you are a children's author, if you would love to be able to join the PR from the Heart family and have David and I share your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, you can connect with us via our official website, prfromtheheart.com, or via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all at PR from the Heart. We also want to give one tip of the cap to one of our favorite neighbors here in San Diego, California, Laura Kavanaugh, the host and executive producer of San Diego Living, which of course is the official home of Empowering Reads for Kids, the official children's book review segment of PR from the Heart on television, which airs each and every month on the CW San Diego CBS 8. So if you would like for Laura and I to be able to share your new heartfelt children's book with children, parents, families, and educators, and those who love great children's books in America's finest city on the CW San Diego CBS 8, you can connect with us via our official website at prfromtheheart.com or connect with us via any of our social media platforms in the process. And of course, we're super excited each and every month to do special editions of the Unity of El Cajon story time with Mr. John. Right, just literally a close trolley stop from the PR from the Heart offices is Unity Church of El Cajon. So we're having the opportunities to give back even more to children, parents, and families, and those who love great children's books, especially here in the San Diego, California. So for more information on the Unity of El Cajon story time with Mr. John, or any of the other ways that we can be of service to you at PR from the Heart, you can schedule your courtesy discovery call by heading on over to our official website, prfromtheheart.com, or head on over to any of our official social media platforms and connect with us there in the process. If this trolley stop has inspired you, if it has brought more love and joy and healing into your heart, if you say, John and David, I feel like going to the movies and then when I come back having some baked beans, that's courtesy of Friends Like Different Things. It's a little tip of the cap to the adventures of Herald from the Hood. If you haven't had the opportunities to do so, you can subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel and share this very special trolley stop. That has been episode number 13 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. David, in our closing moments of the program, we're excited for episode number 14 because it's going to look a little bit different. You and I are going to be together. We're going to be together at the Center for Media Innovation in beautiful downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to record a special in-person in-studio edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. And I feel that after 13 months and sharing dozens of books and things finally opening up post-pandemic, it's going to be so great to, I think, as Yo-Yo Ma said in the Won't You Be My Neighbor documentary, where, you know, Fred Rogers came to him and he said, it's so nice to see you and to be with you. I may even quote Yo-Yo Ma when I see you in Pittsburgh, but next month's edition of the Bookcast in the month of April is going to be super exciting, a very memorable one indeed.
And when you're here, this being the home of Heinz baked beans, you can see the Heinz plant.
I believe if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if they still have this at the Heinz History Center, but they had like a huge stack of ketchup bottles.
Yes.
I remember that when I went to the Heinz History Center. So yes, PR from the Heart will be on the road. We've had the opportunities recently, of course, to be traveling all around San Diego to Bakersfield, California, but we're headed back to the East Coast for the first time in 18 months. So again, you know, stay tuned for more information over the coming weeks ahead. We're going to be sharing some wonderful things that we're going to be doing. We're going to be connecting even more with the team at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. They're going to be having a strong presence on episode number 14 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. So once again, if indeed you want to be able to pledge your support to our fellow friends and neighbors and our fellow shining stars at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh, of course, they are the Pittsburgh chapter of the largest national non-for-profit children's literacy organization in the United States. They provide children's books, developmental resources, educational tools for children that come from low-income families in the Pittsburgh area. Again, did you know that last year alone, that over 80,000 children's books were distributed to over 23,000 children in need in Pittsburgh, courtesy of Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. You can be able to pledge your support through a financial contribution of any dollar amount that you feel guided to do so by heading on over to rifpittsburgh.org/donate. We've included the link below in the description so that you can pledge your support however you feel guided to do so in the process, because they are doing much needed work, again, for children, parents, and for families, especially that come from low-income areas in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. So again, this has been such a magical trolley stop. So we want to thank all of you because, of course, without you, we would not be here. We want to thank all of you for your continued support of children's authors and children's illustrators, such as Jim, such as Nicole. Again, we want to give them one final shout out. The Adventures of Herald from the Hood, the entire series thus far, is now available. A Trip to the Park and Friends Like Different Things and Need a Friend, Learning to Sign With Rennon. They are both now available. You can head on over to Amazon.com if that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing in the process, and leave 5-star reviews for both Jim and for Nicole. We want to thank all of you for your continued support of everyone in the Kid Lit community who is doing much needed work for children, parents, families, and educators, and those who love great children's books in the process. We want to thank all of you for your continued support of local libraries and for independent and children's bookstores, truly the pillars of our community. But above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. As our good friend, he was more of a friend in the earthly life when he was here, Mr. Rogers, but he's still with us from afar, from heaven. Mr. Rogers always reminded us that we're loved and we're special just the way that we are. And he reminded us of his favorite 3 numbers quite regularly on the neighborhood. That was his way in his own private numerology, indicating that I love you, 1 letter in I, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. Well, as David's kind enough to join us each and every month as he did this week here, this month on the Bookcast, we like to remind you of 243. There's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. And that is our reminder that you are loved, that you are special, that you are whole, you are healthy, you are complete, that we like you, that we love you just the way that you are. For David Newell, for myself, John Masiulionis, we will see all of you in the month of April in Pittsburgh, downtown Pittsburgh to be precise, the Center for Media Innovation at Point Park University, for what will be a very magical and memorable trolley stop. That will be episode number 14 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. But until then, thank you for your time, thank you for joining us, and thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.